All right, I'm going to lean back here. Been driving across the country. I'm actually in the van right now. So I haven't been playing a lot. I probably only picked up the guitar 3 times in the last week. This is what I do. These are the steps that I take to get my picking back in order. If I can go fast with some sense of accuracy, the accuracy will start to sort of settle in as I get comfortable with it. But if I can get a little bit of accuracy in there and no tension, I know I can set myself up. It's a good starting point to then sort of continue whatever practice routine or whatever it is. So this is what I do. I'll start palm mute just a little bit, and I'll even just go for the first thing. I'm not really worried too much of what I'm doing with my left hand specifically, but palm mute and incredibly light. I mean, that pick is just grazing right over the string. So, right, kind of get across the strings a little bit. All right, so that palm mute, as soon as I palm mute there, that takes all the tension away. Right? This is like no longer working. Perfect. All right. That's not too bad. Super, super light. And you could hear, I can keep it light, right? And that volume dynamic is the same, right? I'm not overshooting. I'm not getting caught up in the string, right? Right. And I can even replay that, right? And just try to see if I can see any point where I'm either moving too far away, right? Overexerting. So that felt pretty good. Absolutely no tension there. I could do that for hours, which means I'm in a good spot right there. So now I'm just going to add a little bit more volume with the pick, which is really hilarious. All that it takes is if you watch, let's see if I can do this. All I'm going to do, I'm just going to squeeze in the pick a little bit more, right? It's just going to give a little less sort of like flex there with the pick. And just dig in slightly, right? So you'll hear just a little bit more dig in, right? A little bit more volume. Maybe not as accurate as I'd like. The cross strings is going pretty well. That's usually when I get pretty tense. Yeah, a couple misses there when I cross strings. Not too bad. So then from there, I'm going to start seeing how much I can get away from the palm mute. So if I'm doing... Right now I'm away, I'm floating, I'm still using my ring finger, my pinky as an anchor. Is that proper? I don't know. The most important part, especially for me in really the way that I play and what I do specifically, is getting just the tension out. Okay, so like, is that completely proper? I don't know. Anchoring, I'm trying to get everything, if I lift up too much right here, everything is just like right on that forearm, and your forearm and elbow are not meant to make those tiny, precise, right, movements, right? Maybe a little bit more of a strum thing. And even in that case, your wrist is pretty loose. So now I'll, even from there, maybe like, right, that's not so great. I could tell I'm turning in a little bit, right? So if I turn in, because it's a little choppy, right? That's my problem. So I'm turning in a little bit as I'm crossing the strings. My hand will need to move downward and back, right? It can't just lock in this string, next string, right? That's when I start turning down, and that's where the tension is. The problem is, can I, right, make that movement easy without lifting up too much, whether it's the anchor, there's sort of 2 anchor points, my back here, my palm, and my ring finger, my pinky, and I have to get very good and used to moving it back and forth to be able to make this sort of like, here I'm really relying on my palm at the top, and then I'll sort of switch down here, but I need to move this, sort of in that motion so I can move downward without curling the pickup, which is definitely, if I'm going to play it, I can't believe I'm going to do this on video because this is not going to be good. Just based on how much I've been playing, this is not going to be good. But if I cross strings with some sort of a, maybe, I'm definitely, if I start digging in, if I had 2 more strings, that would be it. I'd be like almost parallel with the strings. So I need to get a little bit better at that sort of movement with the strings, and that's what causes, it's a tiny movement. I can get away with sort of 2 strings. Now I got to move down, like, you know what I mean? Now I'm in a great position for those bottom strings. I got to come up a little bit. So that's just what I do. I mean, really, to get back into that sort of playing and that sort of picking, I have to get rid of the tension, you know what I mean? And just start at this sort of like, whatever my left hand's doing. I mean, like, fuck it, I won't even press down, you know what I mean? Just to get that little movement, right? I'm not even pressing down with my left hand. You know, I'm just not concerned with what that is doing. I have exercises that will, then once this gets used to that, get a little bit of speed and strength, especially, I mean, I might as well get into it. I'll do my 1, 2, 3, 4s, you know, and then I'll do my, like, all the way up and back. Right, and then I'll go next fret, all the way to 12th fret, and then back again. Then I get into the holds. Hold, next finger, when it's ready, a little bit more of a strength, and then I'll go backwards and I'll stop on that ring finger. I need to get the dexterity back in my ring finger. I could really feel it if I don't play for a while, right? I can just, even in these, right? Just as a warm-up, I can tell my pressure on my ring finger is not as good, and that's going to slow my left hand down significantly. It's going to slow both my middle finger and my pinky down, right? Having that ring finger be that slow, and that, like, you know, we've sort of done this before, but like, you lift your pinky up, your ring finger, your first finger, your second finger, your ring finger won't move, right? It can't really curl without your pinky sort of curling around it. It wants to lift up with your middle finger. It is the least dexterous, I suppose. So that's the finger that I need to get working the most. Okay, so if I do my 1, 2, 3, 4s, hold, don't move the next finger until it's ready, and then I just land on that ring finger, right? That'll tire me out, right? So that's a little bit of like, kind of like lifting, right? Same thing, first fret, second fret, third fret, all the way up to the 12th, and then all the way back down again. It's time consuming, it hurts a little bit, like in like a good burn kind of muscle way. I'll take a little bit of a rest, and then I'll do, starting the second fret, just because that's where like my ring finger wants to go. Ring finger and pinky. Now, since I'm starting on my second fret, I'll go all the way second fret to the 14th fret, and then back down again. At that point, I should be good. I maybe a little bit of a break, you know, a couple minutes of breaking. I should be good and all set up to start playing. And you know, some of those patterns that I was doing, some of those cross string patterns are gonna start getting a little bit smoother, and you know, I can add like a little bit of volume. I mean, I haven't done all the exercises, but adding a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more volume, and not just, you know, sort of stuck in this low volume, almost like zero state. You know, the point of training in that sort of like that controlled zero state, I almost call it, because it's just like nothing, I can do this forever, is that if I do want to, right, if I want to give it more muscle, I can, and then have somewhere to back off into, and not get, you know, now I've got nowhere to go, right? I have to completely break and hope that this tension releases. A lot of times if I'm playing a gig, you know, one thing that I noticed when I was doing a lot of loop stuff is I'll play that progression, you know, whatever it was that I was playing over, you know, and then go into the solo, and that rhythm is loud, right? And I want it to have some energy to it, right? And then even like maybe giving it like a kick drum sound into that loop pedal. The problem is then, right, if I want to do those fast licks and I have to fight the volume of that looper pedal, I start getting in trouble and I start tensing up. Now the problem is when that tension starts, we burn out the small muscles, right? Go a little bit heavier, right, in those muscles. And if you really burn those out, you've got nowhere to go back on, and you're just fighting, you know, and that's why we have to just get those, you know, that 0 point, like have somewhere to sort of sink down into. And when we have those small muscle groups so well trained that when we go louder, we're using the appropriate muscle groups and we have somewhere to back into. Anyway, that's what I'm doing right now in my van in Arizona.